Awooga. Welcome to the Manchester United agenda. Among they found a John. Was it John Fashanu or Justin?
It was John Fashanu. Yeah, I was going to say Chris Sakabusi, but it's Gladiators, John Fashanu, isn't it? I'm not a fan. I don't know. I've got no reason to dislike him. Well, but maybe I do have a reason to dislike him. Something to do with his brother. I knew one of my coaches in New Zealand was good friends with his brother around the time.
Oh no!
Yeah, he passed away, and he didn't like John for a certain reason because John, sort of sold him out a little bit. Apparently, I don't know. I do know too much about it, but I don't. Rather not say. But I just wish everyone well. I do. I'm not a hater in life. I wish everyone well. He's been successful in life from humble beginnings, been adopted and coming here. So he made the most out of his life, and he was a professional footballer, TV personality, and we don't see him anymore for a certain reason. But Awooga to John Fashanu. I love that bath time. That's really fun.
It's just like saying Awooga. I think it's really fun. Dora, in the Croatian version of Gladiators, what do they shout when the show starts?
Unfortunately, we don't have it, which is a shame. I would love that, but it would be probably, I don't know. So you say Awooga, right?
Yeah.
You know what? We would probably use a really popular, I would say a trend from when Zdravko Mamić, he's, he's a corrupted, I think, ex-president of Dinamo Zagreb. A huge criminal here. He ran away to Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they don't want to let him go, so he cannot go to the jail. But he said something when Dinamo won something or something, and he would say, "Ajde!" and it would probably be that. So yeah, I would probably need to think about it because I think Awooga is amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
What would your gladiator name be?
Good question.
Let's start with you, Monday, as Dora's going to tell us about corruption charges for 20 minutes.
Yabba Dabba. Yabba Dabba. Yeah.
That would be, would you come out dressed like Fred Flintstone or something?
I'll be Yabba Dabba. Here he's come to Yabba Dabba. What rhymes is that? Yabba Dabba.
Yabba Dabba Do. Just go full Fred Flintstone. Just go full, Fred Flintstone, and that's all.
Okay. Here we go. Yabba Dabba Do. Wilma! And come on. And wrestle someone to the ground, I want to hear your gladiator name, especially after that great slogan you came with.
What would you be called, Dora?
I don't know. You know what? I will probably go more traditional. I'll go Dorius the Explorius or something like that, Just go full, a bit Latin or whatever.
Dorius.
And, Dorius the Explorius or something. And, I would just go around and, act like I'm exploring, but I'm actually looking at, the opponent's weaknesses or something like that. So it would be cool. It would be cool.
That would work. Bath time. Yeah. You over to you, bath time. Gladiator name.
I don't know. It's something obsolete but still functional. Fax machine.
I still have it and it works. You wouldn't. Yeah, it still works, and I have it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what gladiators we got in the chat. All right. All the way from the home of Kurt Cobain. Let's hope that there's a different fate awaits him. It's DK Wilson.
And Grey's Anatomy. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
TV show, Bad Time. The Doctor TV show, very popular one.
Casualty.
Grey's Anatomy. It's,
Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy, yeah.
Right. Big up to everyone who pops in, and of course to the hosts. Today I'm watching from the top of the Space Needle in Seattle, Washington.
2 questions. What's that program you just mentioned?
Casualty.
Grey's
Anatomy.
Yeah.
Is there a guy who looks like Ten Hag in there?
No.
Oh, what am I thinking? Okay. And the second question, I thought Seattle was on the West Coast. Seattle Supersonics. I didn't think that
No.
Washington's on the East Coast. Am I confused?
Yeah, they are West Coast, but they are on the border with Canada. They are,
Yeah, top left.
Top
So
left.
what
top
Washington DC
It's on the East Coast.
Washington
Yes, it's
DC
Eastern.
is East Coast.
Yeah.
Washington
Yes.
Seattle is a different place, and that's
Yeah,
on-
Washington is a state. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Mhm.
Seattle is a place in Washington as well as being a place on the West Coast, yeah?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So there's two Seattles.
No, two Washingtons.
So why was Seattle Supersonics taken over by
because they moved. I imagine they moved, Amondo, but they started off like somewhere, and then they got
now,
Maybe.
moved
now
around.
they're in San Francisco, where or the West
No, they are in Oklahoma. Supersonics don't exist
Oh.
actually, but they moved to.
Barry Payton
They
the
took,
Glove used to play for them, and I'm sure
Yeah.
they were on the West. They were West Coast, yeah, because they
Yeah.
came up against Jordan in the finals, who was on the East
Yeah.
Coast. So
Yeah,
Seattle
Sean
was always on
Kemp.
the West Coast. Help
Yeah.
PK Wilson. Sorry about that. Help me out. My geography's go. I don't
Right.
think there must be two.
Top
Seattle.
left. Seattle is the top left. It's above San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Yeah.
It's in the
Okay, so
Pacific
it is on the
Northwest.
West Coast. So why is he saying Seattle, Washington? Washington's on the East.
Washington State. Washington is the name of the state,
Yeah,
but
that's
there
on
is
the East.
also
No,
there is
Seattle
also-
is West
Yeah.
Coast.
Yeah.
Washington DC is East Coast.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Washington is also the name of the capital of Seattle. There are two of them.
Right. Okay. Okay.
All right.
no bad time or other way around, but Seattle
Maybe.
is a city, Washington is a state. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this, to be honest. I mean,
Sorry,
this
sorry
is a
about it.
complete joke of a channel as it is, but that is world class. All right, we've got Bart.
Yeah.
He's got a serious question. Is there ever any other company or franchise that you care for as much as United? If Apple were to hire someone in their R&D department, would you be as opinionated about that recruitment as much as you would about who is, doing the scouting or whatever at United? Dora, are there any companies you deeply care for?
No.
Amonde?
It'd have to be a good company, like maybe a band. Maybe I'd follow not a company, but a band or franchise. If a music band that I really like, might follow. And I say Earth, Wind, and Fire. And if they threw out their lead singer,
They got rid of Earth.
I would, yeah, I'll do a show on it and say, no, you got to bring in this guy from Maze, for example.
Yeah. I'm very interested in open AI, Bart, and I don't like what they're up to. So I do care about that. All right, we've got the big man. We got Lucky Singh in the house.
How you doing?
We got Matty Bassett.
That's it. Big up.
We have got Simon Warner. I
I
hope that your day
like
is...
Simon. Simon's cool, man.
I do
Simon's
as well.
cool, yeah.
We've got Big G mashing up the place with his emojis.
Big up, Big G.
Have we got anyone else here? All right. We've got more about this Seattle nonsense. The Supersonics moved to Oklahoma City. I think you said
Exactly.
that, Dora.
Yeah.
All right. Wouldn't it be ironic if Sancho wins the Champions League? All right, let's get to that. Although let's have a Villa are 5-2 down on aggregate. Okay, so that's every British club out, isn't it? All right. This is what I've got for you this evening. Don't worry, it's not a PowerPoint heavy show. We've got a bit of injuries to talk about. We've got stuff that happened in the Champions League. We've got some assorted talking points I found in 10 minutes on Twitter. And then I did some maths for an hour and a half that I'd like to show you instead of planning the show properly. So that's what I have. Anything excite you there, Dora?
Oh, this maths thing. Oh my God, I'm dreading it already. If it's some kind of a puzzle, I'm leaving the show.
No, it's not a maths puzzle. Would you
Oh,
like
thank
one?
God. No,
No? Okay.
I don't have a capacity at 10 p.m. my time to think about maths. Sorry, but
Well, we've got a good question for you, actually, Dora. Did you watch the Champions League, Dora, or did you watch the Eurovision semi-finals?
Ooh, I watched Eurovision on Thursday. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't watch Borussia Dortmund. I watched Eurovision because Croatia is a favorite, guys. Who knows? You know who watched it. I really don't care about Borussia that much, so I didn't watch it, in all honesty. But I watched yesterday's game.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a game coming up this Sunday. It's at 4:30 Monday at Old Trafford on Sky Sports. So that means a reaction show between 6:30 and 7. Is that all right, everyone?
Yeah. Ask the guys in the comments. Will you be wanting a reaction after the result? Who knows? It's a big game, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll get to that. There's some other stuff before we sort of have to discuss Arsenal. And the first thing is, Dora, let's talk a little bit about our Walking Dead. Martinez is back in training. Rashford is back in training. I personally think that it's very unlikely that either of them will start. I mean, do you think there's any point in playing like Lisandro Martinez against Arsenal?
No, I think that I know people are going to say that Ten Hag is fighting for his job with every game, but the reality is that we have a cup final on 25th, if I'm not mistaken, of May. And I think if we want to have everyone, or most of these players that have been injured and have the chance to come back and feature at least one game, I would bank on that FA Cup final. I don't think the league is that important, in all honesty. I would just preserve him, especially since he is important for our defense, and because we lack in defense. I think that we should leave him for that game, because I mean, what are we fighting for this season? I think we are fighting for that FA Cup. In all honesty, I think the league is done.
Do you agree, Amanda?
Well, especially when it comes to Europe. In my opinion, I don't think we'll look at Europe.
Yeah, I agree with Dora. I mean, look, if people are coming back, the biggest game we got left now is the Arsenal game and the FA Cup final, and everything else. The Newcastle game don't really matter, It's at Old Trafford, by the way, and I've just got tickets from a friend to go up there, and my colleague who's.
Are you going?
No, I got a ticket. My friend got me a ticket, and my colleague at work, a Nigerian boy, I'll say boy, he's 27, but he loves Man United, and he's so excited. He goes up to Manchester. He's always asking me to get him tickets, so I sorted him out. I feel like Del Boy. Yeah, I've sorted him out, right? And so he's going up there on Wednesday night to.
You'll probably get a game at this point.
He can't get game for my Sunday team. I booted him out. So he probably will. Yeah, that's funny. But I agree with Dora. Yeah, I think looking at the injuries, you've got to save these guys, wrap them up in cotton wool, and save them for the final. It's all about the final. Let's just get through these games, next few games with what we've got, and get people back. And give them a good opportunity to play our best team, because at the moment we are walking wounded. We're really struggling. You said walking dead. I didn't want to say that. We're wounded, but literally we're just struggling so bad. I've never known it so bad where we're having to put out teams like this. It's really scary. And
didn't we play Carrick at centre back 5 or 6 years ago?
We did
in the Champions League.
That's right. But we had more steel back then, I think. At the moment, we're really vulnerable, and it's not looking good.
All right, well, let's have a quick look at the comments. Lucky saying Real Madrid players show the world how to do it. I'm sure we'll get on to that, Lucky, about what happened in the Champions League and things. But it's just pointing out how rubbish we are with 15-plus shots on goal in the last 18 games. And oh, my God. Big G is saying that the question's coming at algebra, Dora. So get your alphabetic spaghetti out. It'll help you. Injuries. Our players could fill a hospital ward. And then look who it is. It's Ed Mayhem. Big up yourself, Ed. Eurovision. 3 hours of awful songs, outlandish outfits, and null point for England.
Yeah.
I quite like Eurovision, which I don't think will shock anyone. So Bart's ready for the reaction show to up his chances of becoming a mod on the channel. I'll tell you what, Bart. At the end of the season, I'll do another vote to see if you can be made a mod or not. Right. Ed is saying leave out Martinez, which I think everyone thinks that, don't they? There's just no point playing him if he's not fit. Yes to a reaction show. DK Wilson is agreeing with Dora. Ed Mayhem is my boss Ten Hag. And he's also saying it's not a Real Madrid fan channel, it's a Manchester United fan channel.
Yeah.
That's true, Ed, but there are some things that I think are quite important from other football matches that we can apply, that we can, look at our team through that lens, because that's where we want to be. We want, it's ridiculous that 25 years after the treble, a team from Germany has once again conceded 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of a match that they should have won. And Man United are not involved. And we've got Andrew, who's turned up with some French, and we don't like the French around here, Andrew, so enough of that, please. Brexit means Brexit. All right, I've forgotten what the next slide is. Oh, it was the mathematics that I spent absolutely ages on. This isn't particularly interesting, but I went through the accounts and the FFP handbook from the FA and did a bit of maths. And we don't have a lot of money to spend. I think that as it starts at the moment, we could spend 60 million, and that's not just on a transfer fee. That includes wages. So Casemiro, Varane, Martial, all these players, they need to go because they're paid too much money. And any chance of European football boosts us tremendously in the transfer market. 25 million might not sound like a lot, but it's about 40% of what we have to spend at the moment. So I'm not. I mean, what do you think of this, Monday? This is boring, isn't it?
Not really. No, I'm glad you've actually done the maths and spent the time to sort of give us a sort of estimate, because we can all throw out figures, but at least I know going forward, this is what we got to spend. So I can see why the importance of. So I don't want anyone complaining or moaning if some of their favourite players get released. The 3 put down there, Varane, Casemiro, and Martial, I think they're sure shots. They should be left. They should be leaving the club. I wouldn't feel there won't be any tears from me if these guys go. Casemiro has been terrible this season. Varane, I don't think he's consistent enough. And Martial, it's just been, since he's arrived, he's never fulfilled his potential. So it's time for him to go, even though I think his contract's run out. The other guys, I would just add into that list, if might upset a few people. I think we've got 2 left-back young guys who can come in with Fernandes and the youth guy.
Amas.
So Shaw could probably go if we can get rid of him. I think I think keep Lindelof and Harry Maguire, because otherwise we need to have someone there set at that. And then Rashford, for me, is somebody I feel that you could make a lot of money on. And based on when I weigh it all up, my emotion about Rashford, I'm kind of flat at the moment with him. So I think it would be a good opportunity to sell him and get some money based on the maths you've done here. We don't have much. And if you want to rebuild or start buying players, and I know you mentioned before, by half time, we shouldn't be going out spending 60 million on a player. We should sort of buy just good up-and-coming players. We saw that guy Wharton for Crystal Palace the other day. He was cheap. We need to sort of sort out our spending and manage it a lot better rather than spending big money on sort of these big players, expecting them to do well. So, yeah, it is an issue, and I think all the fan base should understand why we need to get rid of players, and that explains it really well. So big up halftime.
Well, I think Dora, I think it shows that we saw a story recently that Ten Hag clearly had to deny in a press conference because even he's not as bad as Rangnick, where basically the entire squad is available for transfer except for Garnacho, Kobe, and Rasmus for some reason. Do you think that with Blanc coming in as the sort of acting CEO, or whatever it is he's doing. But he's definitely been brought in to facilitate over the summer, because we're not getting my friend and yours, Dan Ashworth, anytime soon. Do you think that we could see the churn that we need through the squad, or are we going to spend 6 months looking at stories about Al Kahafi in Saudi Arabia, bidding 10 million for Varane and things?
I don't know, honestly. It's insane, right? We are in money trouble, but at the same time, there were news today that actually came out that United are the most profitable and I think most valuable team in the world currently. When you look at the commercial sides, I think we are on par, of course, with Real Madrid, with some other big European teams, and the list included New York Red Bulls, I think, and one other American team, MLS team. So it's so baffling to me to see that United are struggling, but Glazer phonics, I would say, and everything else that has been happening in the last 15 years is finally unfortunately coming to bite us in the ass. I just feel that I understand that I am a big preacher of getting rid of half of the squad. However, we need to be realistic. I think that Casemiro, Varane, and Martial is definitely going. He is going to be a free agent. You have Casemiro and Varane who are still going to be on contract, but there is some kind of value where, for example, we can sell Casemiro to a Brazilian team, maybe for some small amounts of money, but that wage bill is going to be, we won't, pay for his wages anymore, which is a huge relief. Varane, on the other hand, I don't know if he's interested to play in the league or maybe Saudi Arabia, because, even, someone like Benzema, who got insane amounts of money, he gets injured after 2-3 games and he runs back to Europe because he doesn't want to be there, because they don't have the facilities, and living there is just awful. Even footballers aren't living in Saudi Arabia, they're living in Qatar, which is like a more liberal country to say. I don't know what is going on, but they're
not living in Qatar, they live in
Bahrain. Sorry, I mixed it up. So they obviously don't like being there, so it's going to be hard to convince them. Maybe this is maybe Al Nassr or someone Ronaldo's team is going to buy him. Oh, my buddy Ronaldo is there, but I don't know. All in all, I think it will be hard, but I think besides those three, I think there is a huge possibility of Sancho leaving, because he's obviously he's in the Champions League finals. He feels, he is dancing in the locker room. He's saying that Borussia Dortmund is his home. So Borussia Dortmund Twitter admin is saying everyone needs to apologize. United needs to apologize to him. Well, take him to pay for him, and what, that's our apology. Just pay for him and get rid, and that's all. Him, and of course Mason Greenwood as well. He isn't on a huge wages, but we will probably get some kind.
We'll get on to that, Dora.
Yeah.
That's next slide.
Yeah. Sorry for spoiling the show, but I think that it's insane to think. It's insane to think that we will, fix everything in one summer window. I think this will take, the cleansing of the squad will take at least 3 summers, 3 transfer windows, in my opinion.
Well, all right. Let's see what the comments have to say. We've got Andrew. Surprise! They got to go. But Marcus is our highest played player. He must go. Have you included the 3-year time frame and transfer fees, including wages, bath time? I certainly have, Big G. Oh, wow. How much would you sell a crop player like Martial for? Nothing, because his contract's expiring. But the figures that we have for his wages are, they're ludicrous. How much Martial is getting paid? What are the odds that United will force sell some of their starlets from their academy in order to balance the books, as most of the first team won't leave with a pay cut? It's a very, very good point, Bart, is that even it's so hard to sell our players because of the inflated wages, and we get a massive boost from academy prospects. So the most sellable academy prospects, with the exception of Mainu, are McTominay and Greenwood. And I imagine that we might see movement towards the end of the summer with those two if we haven't been able to get rid of, say, Lindelofs and people like that. Like, you know, Donny, he's coming back as well, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Martial hasn't put a toe on the pitch at all this year. Perhaps he's worried in case he gets injured again. I actually think that's a sensible comment, is that Martial had an operation during the season, presumably so that, you know, he's fit and ready to go in the summer for another club, which is great. I think it's more than that, Bath Time. I would like to dive deep into your calculations, pal. That's what it is at the moment. It's that's actually quite a generous estimate because I've put 60% of our EBITDA as our buying potential. But I spent an hour and a half on this, Big G, and no one bloody cares. All right. The only player on high wages we should keep should be Varane. Don't mind what happens to the others on higher or equivalent wages. Yeah, double A. I don't know your thoughts on Bruno, to be honest, but he's on about 250k, I think. Right, Lucky Singh has told us some players to get. Zubamendi, yeah, he's a very good player. Bremner at Juve is central defender. What do you think?
Yeah, he's decent.
Decent.
We should have signed him from Torino when he was at Torino. I don't understand why we let him go to a big club before we realised he's good. Frimpong, yeah, I heard him talking the other day. He's a roadman. He talks like a proper Englishman, you know. But yeah, he'd be a good signing. Give us some width.
Dewsbury Hall, daughter.
You like him, don't you?
Yeah, I do like him.
I remember him when they were in the Premier League for Leicester. I mean, he seemed like an important player for, you know, that Leicester team. Brendan Rodgers loved him. I don't know. I honestly, I need to watch him again to see how he developed since then, or, you know, whatever. I mean, I assume that he developed since the last time I saw him, so I don't know.
He's been playing with Harry Winks. He's going to be amazing now. Elise, I think everyone's a yes to Elise, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Victor Boniface, a German striker.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know him. All right. Okay. Ed Mayhem is saying we're apparently the richest commercial club football-wise, but we have huge debts, huge debts that drag us down. Lucky, this is your worst ever comment. Get Rolf Rangnick back to our club, unless we're like, I don't know, waterboarding him or something. That's a no from me. But it's a yes to Stephanie Griffiths. Hello, Stephanie. Haven't seen you for a while. I hope everything's good. Real Madrid, spanking new stadium, great team, their own TV deal. Say we are worth more than them seems dodgy, but I didn't see the story. And a big one here. Does anyone want to bot views, followers? I can think of another Man United fan channel that does this, so maybe go and see them. Have we got anything else? Sassy. Right. If Rashford wants to improve his career, then a move abroad would suit him. Apart from the odd blip, Kane is firing the goals at Bayern. But do you know what? I was thinking the other day, I am so pleased Harry Kane did not go to City. I hate to think what they would be if they had Kane instead of Haaland. He's so good, Harry Kane. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right. I've got some talking points. Right. These are. If you want to talk about any of these things here, we can just talk about them. So the first one is that Jadon Sancho is the first United player since Chicharito in 2015 to play in the Champions League final, where Chicharito was obviously on loan at Real Madrid. United want to bring in an older, experienced striker for Højlund. We would love to sell Anthony, but the problem is that no one wants to buy him. There's a lot of interest in Mason Greenwood, especially from Premier League clubs. United staff, like you're just the normal day-to-day average people like us, are not allowed to work from home starting from the summer. Borussia Dortmund want Jadon Sancho back, and rather amusingly, Sancho's loan deal expires the day before the Champions League final. So we might be able to finesse another couple of million out of Borussia Dortmund, which would be nice. And then, of course, the Champions League football that we saw over the weekend. So, Amonde, is there anything there that arouses you?
Yeah, the first one, Jadon Sancho, that is a big talking point.
Okay.
I just want to say congratulations to him. It's I want players to fulfil their potential, and granted, it didn't happen at Man United, and he should have apologised. He's messed it up, and I'm not happy with him. He's let us down completely, and he does show no sort of what's the word? What's the word?
Well, what are you trying to say? Bottle fight?
No, it's kind of like feeling sorry or
remorse.
Remorse, that's it. Yeah, sorry. You show no kind of remorse at all. I don't like that. But I want him. It was good to see him playing good football because I think he's a talented player. If I take away my support for Man United, seeing a young player like that, going and playing in the Champions League, doing really well in the semi-finals at a higher level, English as well. I think fair play to him. He's done well. You want players to maximise their potential. A lot of players don't. And even though he screwed us around, I just want to say congratulations to him. If he's in a place which suits him, which is his bad attitude, I think he's got a bad attitude. We're a professional club. We got standards. He doesn't quite meet them, but he can play his good football and get away with things at Dortmund. And he's getting a tune out of them, or they're getting a tune out of him.
That bad attitude has worked out for him on Monday. He's refused to apologise to Ten Hag, and he's playing in a Champions League final.
We will end up winning long term because we will start to get players with the right attitude, and if we can afford to let this guy go, who's obviously talented, and he can go on and do really well. Don't feel, oh God, he's playing in Champions League, whatever. Just let him go. Let's get players in the right attitude, and let's build a team and a culture now going forward, without the sort of Jadon Sancho's or the negative influences that have, like crybabies or not professional enough. I don't like that. So let him go. Go all the best. I don't have a bad feeling towards him or anything. But I just think it just shows now the clear difference between what we want as a culture going forward and a player like Jadon Sancho, who's going to be probably stay at Dortmund and play his football there and do whatever he does in the future.
Amonde, since I think since 2015, a Stoke player from the 2014-2015 squad has been in the Champions League semi-final every single year. Do you think that Stoke fans, like looking at who was your man last night who scored the double, who played for
Tchouaméni and was playing, not Tchouaméni, and the Bayern striker and the guy
Joselu.
Joselu.
Joselu. Do you think the way that we're looking at Sancho, thinking, where's that player that was man of the match against PSG at home? Do you think the Stoke fan remembers that 2014 squad and is just absolutely livid at seeing all their old players tearing it up in Europe, like getting 2 goals in the last 5 minutes? I think it must be extremely frustrating.
It shows they obviously had some a good eye for a player. I think it was who's the former Arsenal player? Gnabry. He was at Stoke, I'm sure, on loan as well.
So West Bromwich Albion, I think.
Oh, sorry, West Brom. Sorry,
Tony Pulis wouldn't play him.
Oh, well, there you go. Just shows, isn't it? A lot of talent going around. But I just think the same way Bellingham didn't want to come to us, it's because we're a mess. And he realised we're lacking professionalism and there's players there taking the pee. So, sorry, Dora, you're going to say, I just finish this point. I think if we change the whole culture of our club and start, even it means us coming 8th in the league and not winning anything and being on our face and fans crying for the manager out, if that's what it takes to change the culture of the club long term, I think that'd be better for us. And then we start to attract players again, because players would know inside jobs would say this club would mean business. They're a proper club again. And
can I just do the comments before
Yeah.
Dora butts in because I keep forgetting to do them, innit? Steph saying Harry Kane is cursed. United would be a great fit. Look, I think we're going to sign Harry Kane. I genuinely, Harry Kane will come back to the Premier League in a couple of years to get that record off Shearer. Like, he won't win anything at Bayern.
And he will be a corpse probably without luck.
Well, I saw something quite interesting actually, where Thomas Tuchel was asked, like, what, he was asked about Kane and does Kane do anything that he didn't expect? Was he surprised? And he said that Kane just drinks so much coffee, it's unbelievable. And it reminded me of that Liverpool team that over-caffeinated themselves, like, to win the league title. And the same way Jamie Vardy, he drinks like pints of Red Bull and things before games. Get into caffeine, boys. It's really good for athletic performance. All right, what's Big G? Because the way the clubs list players as assets, getting rid of big name players is extremely complex. It affects the share price and the value of the club. This is amortization, and it's included in the EBITDA calculation. Like, Big G, if you don't think that the figures I've given are correct, that's fine. And we can move on. I spent a long time doing it, and I had quite a lot of fun. This is Sancho's best chance of silverware, but Real are still favourites. Sancho prefers the Dortmund kindergarten. Nice one. F. Sancho, he could score 10 in the final, made his bed. I agree. Rory Delap is the only Stoke player I remember. Yeah, you're right there, Ramonde. I don't know what you're right about. That's why I like Darius. He's mental but funny. Thanks, Andrew. Sancho plays like he's 3 now. Plus, the number 7 promise was broken because Glazer's jersey merch money. Sancho felt betrayed. Allegedly, no one even said anything to him before the change. I have to say, the same with Martial, wasn't it? Like, Zlatan took his shirt number. Just grow up, in my opinion. But I mean, Simon is saying a very similar thing. He started to really enjoy his football since signing for Dortmund. You see it in his face. Huge weight has been lifted. Maybe he just didn't have the mentality for it. What do you think, Dora?
I think, first of all, I respect Borussia Dortmund wholeheartedly. I think they are a big German team. However, they cannot be compared to Manchester United in terms of the stature of the club and, the popularity and everything that comes with, being at Manchester United. To me, they are probably top, part of the, top 3 or top 4 biggest German teams. However, I feel that they are more of a developmental team that, doesn't necessarily attract big stars, but they are developing young promising potential players that
just a German Brighton.
I mean, when you put it like that, if you take everything into account, that's actually true. Like, for example, when they won that league under Klopp, and they went to the Champions League finals in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, when Bayern won it. Sorry?
2012, I think it was.
12. No, 12 was Chelsea.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right then. 2011, yeah.
I think it was 11. But,
you're right.
Please, guys, correct me. Maybe it was 13. I don't remember. Around that time, right? You had young Marco Reus. You had Lewandowski, who just started his career, and not necessarily just started his career, but he started scoring a lot, and he showcased his talent. You had Nuri Sahin, you had Mario Götze. Those are all Subotic, Mats Hummels, who at that time was a young, promising center back. And if you look at it, like, those are all young up and coming stars that later half of them went to Bayern Munich, half of them went abroad, which is unfortunate for them, but they sold them, right? And then you look, a few years after, Klopp left, you had Tuchel, you had, now Terzic. Before that, I cannot remember every single, but, I know Tuchel's Terzic and, some, one more coach. They had, for example, you had, Jude Bellingham, you have Haaland, you have Sancho. They weren't stars at that moment in time. They were potentials, right? You have Ousmane Dembele, not a star.
Yeah.
So you have all of
Pulisic.
those. Christian Pulisic, of course.
Was Gundogan at Dortmund?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gundogan was part of that team that went to the finals. So you have so many, young, promising potential, players, but you don't have stars. You don't have, concrete stars. And I think the reason why Jadon Sancho feels so good about himself there is because they don't necessarily need to win every single thing every single year like Bayern Munich does, right? They need to win a treble. They need to win at least a cup. They need to at least win a league or, go to the Champions League finals for their season to be good. They don't have to do it, right? They are finding, young stars. They go to, Croatian leagues. They go to, Belgian leagues. They go to, all of these smaller leagues.
So, what you're saying, Dora, is that they've got the time to develop players into stars, and they don't have the pressure that a top club has.
Exactly. And I think this year, they have been playing really well. However, I think the reason why, I went on the tangent. I just wanted to say that the reason he's playing that, good because he doesn't have pressure on him. At Manchester United, we were chasing him for 2 seasons. We signed him for 70 million euros. We expected him to be a star next to Cristiano Ronaldo, or he would be, the star of the new generation with Rashford and Martial and whoever, right? And Mason Greenwood at that moment in time. But he didn't do it. He was, under pressure. He couldn't live up to that. And now he's dancing in the locker room, celebrating all that because no one expects anything from him, in all honesty. Like, people are saying he had a great season. I disagree. If you look at his,
they're very comparable to Antony's stats since he went to Borussia Dortmund. They have about the same goals and the same assists, believe it or not.
Oh, but he had 13 take-ons against PSG, who are playing high line and they don't have, helping defense as the teams in the Premier League. The physicality of the Premier League, the organization of the defense in the Premier League doesn't suit him. Hence why he never will succeed, in my opinion, in the Premier League.
Here's one for you, right? Sancho took 14 months, I think, to sign, something like that. And he knew for almost 2 years that he was Solskjaer's top target. All the players at the club, Rashford, Shaw, people like that, they were all great friends with him from England. It was no surprise that Sancho moved to United. Why? Because of all that time and the fact that he knew that that's where his destiny lay, as it were. Why was he so weak and disappointing? Was he not prepared properly? Did the club fail him in any way? How did it all go so wrong?
I mean, from the outsider perspective, I just don't think that I think he beat more than he could chew. He probably thought that it will be much easier. However, with everything that has been going on, I mean, the club, being a mess, kind of, you need to combine that as well in that. But, looking at, for example, someone like Marcus Rashford, who is a face of the team in the last few years since he, debuted for the 2015-2016 season, it's really hard to maintain that because even now everyone is turning back on Rashford because he's not giving his best for the team, and they just, it seems like he gives up every now and then. And I think that he thought, okay, I will come in. I have Rashford here. I have Ronaldo here. I will, have assists like I did with Haaland the season before. I will be a star here. And unfortunately, he realized that, the other teams in the Premier League are not that far off from the club, from us, from our team, and that they are not so amateurish like they are, for example, with all due respect to Bundesliga. Like, Bundesliga is an exciting league, but the way they play, they don't play solid defense. They're all playing high line. Literally, they are just flying. Every single attack is a transition. A transitional attacking, and it's open, and it's exciting to see. Exactly, it looks like a scrimmage.
Session.
It looks like a scrimmage.
Do you remember Timo Werner? Came from the Bundesliga. I think his first match was against Brighton as a Chelsea player, and all he did in the post-match interview was talk about how he couldn't believe how big and fast and strong Lewis Dunk was, who is not a monster by Premier League standards. So I think you're on something there. But before we get to you, Monday, need to talk to these gremlins that live in our chat. Stephanie is talking about German players that moved to Manchester United from the Bundesliga, and Owen Hargreaves was unlucky with injury. I thought he was a good player, Hargreaves. I have to say, I liked him. Simon is saying we could get Champions League in about 2 to 3 years, depending on what boss we get and what players we sign. Just remember, a lot of teams like Arsenal have made a huge jump in 2 seasons. United are not as far off, I think, as people think. When you look at sort of Spurs and Villa, if we had a manager that could coach a block or could coach a press or coach any sort of element of football, we would have been able to get top 4 this season, certainly top 5. So we're not that far off Champions League football, I don't think, but it's the step up to Arsenal and Man City that is the issue. Bart is saying Sancho will not sign for any other club unless United pay him the remainder of his wages. Ugh. And Götze scored the winning goal in the World Cup final 2014. Andrew also loved Owen Hargreaves. Will never forgive Fergie for what he said about him in his book. Do you know what he said about him in the book, Amonde?
I don't know.
Worst ever signing.
Oh, because of injuries. Because of injuries.
Yeah, he said he was mentally weak and gave up and things. He really went in on Hargreaves. He really went in on him. Ed is saying we're not living off past stories, guys. We're just not living, Ed, at the moment as United fans. All right, Sancho, not mentally strong enough. And I think this is actually pretty good from Bart. Sancho should have prepared himself like Ruud did before he came to the league. Well, Ruud obviously had that terrible injury, but was promised that he was going to come, and he thought about it and stuff. And even, I think it's Casemiro. When Casemiro knew he was going to Man United, he was requesting videos about how United set up at corners because he wanted to sort of get ahead of learning all the different sort of defensive systems and things. Whereas with Sancho, I think you're right, Dora. I think he just thought it would be easy. He'd just turn up and it would be fine, which is really disappointing. Football is more mental than anyone will ever realise. I don't know, Monday. I think most people would say that the top players, it's mainly their sort of attitude and understanding of the game, as opposed to their physicality that gets them there.
Yeah, I agree with Andrew's statement. It is, for me, it's more mental. There's so many talented players you see that don't make it as footballers. That's mainly to do with their mentality. And we've seen Sancho come to Man United, didn't succeed. I think that's down to his mentality again. So yeah, Andrew's a spot on there.
All right. Well, another player that came to United that didn't succeed was Shinji Kagawa. What did you think? What did you think of old Shinzi? Was he a sort of proto Van der Beek?
Oh yeah, but I mean, I was really excited with that signing. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out. But I will always remember that time when he scored 4 goals in one game. So yeah, kudos to Shinji Kagawa, and he won a league with us. So good for him.
Yeah, I remember here. I remember seeing a video that someone sent me of all the runs where he wasn't being passed to, how intelligent he was. And I looked at them and I was like, "This is the Premier League. You're too far away from your teammates. You need to get closer." Monday, did you like him?
Yeah, I liked him as a player. Obviously, he's technically good, small, sort of like a little number 10. it's just about how to use him, how to utilize him. And I think Fergie even struggled to get a tune out of him. So it didn't quite work out. But I like those sort of players. I think if he would have gone to the right team with the right setup, he could have really excelled. I can see him, like we see what David Silva done at Man City. Everyone thought he would be a flop, and he probably would in most Premier League sides. It's just that he went to the right setup, and he was fantastic. They got the best out of him. I just think some English sides, because of the physical side of things, they struggle to get the best out of smaller players. And because what's his name, Shinji Kazawa, or whatever, he was a prime example of that. A talented player, just couldn't get tune out of him at Man United.
And look, we deserve better. Sancho came in the era where players had more power than the manager and thought he would outlast or outcast the manager. All that is changing, and Sancho, thus forth, has been found out. United definitely need professional footballers, not these celebrities that play football.
Yeah,
I agree. And look, it's Yale. Look at that. Leverkusen is about to lose their first game this season against Roma at home. Because they're on for like an unbeaten season, I think, like in everything.
Yeah. Which is more impressive than Arsenal in 2004, because in the European competitions they are also,
yeah,
they didn't lose.
But I mean, I remember that my brave boys from Azerbaijan gave up 4 goals in the last 10 minutes against Leverkusen, so I wouldn't rule them out. When Sancho signed, he instantly became the 5th highest earner in the league. It's very unusual to give someone so young so much money and hope that his head is not turned. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Monday. You like sort of guidance and authority and things like this. I think that with these sort of young men that we sign and put under ridiculous pressure and give ridiculous wages to, that maybe we should actually treat them a little bit more like children and like have people that are sort of looking after them. Because I mean, Sancho, there's constant reports throughout his career of being late at England, at Borussia Dortmund, at United as well. And at Borussia Dortmund, he was given a handler, like some guy, just to basically sort of be a parent to him. I mean, do you think that players that we bring in who haven't been through our academy, like Kobe Minu, I suspect, is still living at digs or with his parents, like, do you think that maybe we should like look at trying to settle our signings a little bit better, or is that the role of the captain?
I think we should. Just an example that I always refer to with Sancho is Trevor Francis. He played a lot of games for Birmingham City. Then he was signed by Forest, and he went on to score the winning goal in the Champions League final. But he wasn't playing. Brian Clough didn't play him every game, even though he was the first £1 million player, almost a couple of pennies less. But he didn't. He wasn't thrown into the deep end. He really sort of held him back and kept him hungry. And then obviously brought him on the maestro, bringing him on in the final, letting him play in the final, and scored the winning goal. So that's managing a young player who's come in as like Sancho was the 5th highest player wage in the Premier League. Trevor Francis was the highest paid British player of all time at the time, for £1 million. Young, talented, and he needs to be managed. And Brian Clough done a good job with him. We didn't do a good job with Sancho. I totally agree. We need to sort of manage the players better. So bring them in. All right, you're a young, hot shot. We need to, keep you grounded in a way. The situation about him, his sort of activities outside of football, playing PlayStation to the early hours, and that sort of foolishness needs to stop. That should have been cut out. We need to get him into the culture again. It didn't work out at City. We should have done our homework. Why didn't it work out at City? Why did he leave City as one of the most talented players? Even he was above Phil Foden, I feel, regarding talent at that stage. But Phil Foden was more professional, and he was the one who lasted out and looks in a better position right now. So you certainly do need to manage these players, and that's a lesson learned. And I think we will learn a lesson this time around, because we're 10 years from a title, we've got new ownership. And these guys are making decisions, as you can see with your other pointers there. Looks like these guys are making decisions about the future and the way forward.
All right, but from your own personal experience, like when you signed on in New Zealand, like who sort of welcomed you there? How did you fit in? Things like, because that's a huge change going from London to the Southern Hemisphere.
I was 27 at the time, so and I was
Mm.
working. I was able to look after myself. I could cook. I can look at, I just had my own flat and everything. So when I went over there, if I was younger, more stupid and foolish, I would have been a complete flop. So I managed to maintain and look after myself. I was given a car, and I did do some stupid things. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's different. This is like low league kind of thing. I had a car. I used to travel around, do foolishness. I used to go out to nightclubs, and no one can, everyone knew it. But I would come into training the next day, and I'd be fine. You know what I'm saying? But I remember coming. Oh God, I don't even want to tell the stories on here, but
Well, in terms of stuff like, so I assume that when you went out, there were digs arranged for you for like 2 weeks or something, and then you had to go and get an apartment or something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
And you had to go and sort of open bank accounts, all the really boring stuff that you're out there.
So we the chairman of the club, we stayed with him initially, and he had like an outhouse. Yeah,
he put you in the shed.
No, it was like an outhouse kind of thing. So we stayed with them initially, and he sort of gave us the ropes about the club and the culture and everything. Had to sit and have dinner with him and everything. So we were desperate to get our own property and live our life because we felt a bit like we were being child-minded, But it was a good thing because it sort of gave us some sort of ground in there, and it's a new country, new experience, and I think we would have gone a lot wilder than we did if we didn't have that grounding. So the chairman's family took us in and sort of fostered us initially for the first month or two, and then we sort of established what was going on in Auckland and what to do, and we found property, and we managed it ourselves, and we were getting good money. So it was like we're living like a king. But clearly, even at that level, this is like a professional club, whatever. But they still had people in place who would give you guidelines and everything. Because you have to keep in mind they were getting the best players from Papua New Guinea or the best players from Fiji and all these sort of islands. We had the captain of the Cook Islands, for example, who's a pretty good player, Heath. I think his name was Heath or something. So, and obviously Aaron Silva turned up.
Yeah, my mate.
The Chilean international. Yeah, so these guys are really looked after. I think over there they look after you, but then once you do have a license to go out and do your thing, and we certainly did. Me and Davis had a lot of fun going out with the nightlife and living like kings. I had a jacuzzi in my wooden deck in my own apartment. I had a wooden deck and jacuzzi and all. I should write a book about the fun we got up to.
Do you know what? I had a jacuzzi as well, but it was a communal jacuzzi, but it was on the top of this tower block, like in downtown Santiago, and genuinely, it was the greatest thing ever. God, I wish I could go back. Right,
that's my chat line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right, Dora, you spent some time in Germany, did you?
No.
Well, have you been apart from Snake Island? Have you been anywhere outside of Croatia for an extended period of time?
Yeah, I've been to Switzerland, but apart from that, I was never in there for long. I was mostly going, as a part of a vacation or a holiday, visiting my family members, outside of the country. So yeah, I was never living outside. Honesty.
You have a lot of friends who go to Germany. I've just remembered what you told me. Like Germany and Ireland, isn't it? You get a lot of sort of Croats going to those sort of places.
Unfortunately, yeah, it is how it is.
How do they get on without sort of support out there, negotiating visas and?
Yeah, I mean, it helps that we are in European Union and all that. We are part of the Schengen now. It's easier to go there and get papers or whatever. However, what I learned in the last 10 years, I would say, since I think we enrolled in the European Union in 2013, and since then we lost 500,000 Croats. I think 500,000 people left the country, which is insane to go, abroad
Do you want to
to
see
work
something
with.
else that's insane?
What?
I knew that they were going to do this.
Yeah.
I knew
think
they were going to do this.
they are like Real Madrid, they this season, they have amazing, plot armor, I would say. But
Someone sold their soul. Like,
yeah, I think they did. But to answer your question, if, for example, if I don't have anyone. For example, I go to Germany, I go to Bavaria,
Mhm.
for example, or to Stuttgart, or somewhere in the vicinity of those cities. If I don't know the language, if I don't have anyone, the supporting system, I would probably struggle, especially in the first few months. And if you combine that with, for example, if I am not very, extroverted person, if I'm not if I don't know how to communicate with other people and, be able to stand up for myself. And I think that's also a huge factor. I know a lot of people who, for example, from my town went abroad and came back. I think my cousin went to Ireland, and after a year he came back with injuries of, he was in the storage hall, he was carrying a lot of heavy weight, and he got, I don't know how you say it, but when you it doesn't matter, all right. He got an injury. He got few injuries because he, lifted heavy weight, and he came back. He said it's not the same. It's not home, right? It's not the same culture. It's hard, and But on the other side, I know a person. I know a woman who is a dear friend of ours. And my mom's, she went there with her family, with her husband and 2 kids, to Ireland. At first, they struggled a bit, but they moved to the southern Ireland, if I'm not mistaken, more to the south. And in the last 6-7 years, they are living really well. Her husband got a better job, and the kids are going to school, and they are all grown up, and it's much easier. I think it's always easier to go in groups. As an individual, if you don't know anyone and you don't know anything, if you don't know how to say, for example, if you're going to Germany in German, if you don't know, say hello, ich heiße Dora, for example, or the basics, I think it's really hard.
All right, well, let's see what the comments are saying, because we'll start off with DK Wilson. Is saying Sancho thought coming back was going to be a breeze. Definitely was immature, but which senior players were in the locker room to establish him as a junior player? I think that's a great point. That in my experience of sort of going abroad, like we were all, very young people, but there were a couple of what you would call senior pros that were essentially disgusted with a lot of our attitudes. And I learned a lot from them. And there doesn't appear to be that in the United dressing room. Like, I don't know. And then Bartsmate told me something interesting here, which is that City spend about 80k every year trying to settle their foreign signings. So I'd assume they have a PA or something who helps them out and things. And that would be tremendously helpful. All right. Big G is cross again because he's heard an opinion that isn't the same as his. And they're saying they're bloody adults. Come on. Next, you'll be saying you have to employ an assistant to wipe their arse. Unbelievable, Jeff. What I would say, Big G, is that you probably see the world in one way, right? And you're able to go out and look after yourself and things. What I think is happening now with the younger generation of footballers that have had it pretty easy, to be honest, since they've been about 16, with boot deals and agents and things like that, is that they're not really adults. Like they're glorified man children. And in order to sort of protect our investment in them, players like Sancho, I think we do actually need to basically give them babysitters now to make sure that they're like brushing their teeth and going to bed. And it's not something that's uncommon in football. Like Amonde was talking about Sancho staying up all night playing FIFA. We won an FA Cup final because a player stayed up all night playing Tomb Raider. If you remember that with David James, that's what he blamed his cup final performance on when Cantona scored that lovely volleyed winner in '96. So I agree with you that it is utterly ridiculous that we have to look after players this way now. But I think that it is what we have to do in order to protect our investment, because you just can't trust them anymore. They're not normal people. They're just like children. Is Yali with a thing? Right, bath time. No, he's not a dog. Social media is a downfall of players, and I honestly believe, that, even though I love interacting on social media. I think I agree with this. Amonde and Dora, I don't know what it would be like if we'd been 6 years old with access to social media. Life would have been very different, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy stuff. Villa are lucky to get this far, so they can't complain. They did better than us, and they did better than we did in European competition. Yeah. And then here's Bart biting at Big G. Getting to settle the foreign guys, and especially the young guys, is key. Help them by meeting people of a similar background, list of supermarkets, restaurants, broker, language classes. Completely agree, Bart. I've been there and done that, and it is... I can't tell you how many people I've known over the years that have completely crumbled when they're by themselves in a place where it's just not easy for them. All right, I'll be up in a minute, Andrew. He's saying that 1-1 is his prediction. Look, to be honest, I think tomorrow night Stefan wants to come on, so we'll probably do the Arsenal preview then, as we haven't done it tonight. What else have we got here? Fergie wanted his young players to get married ASAP to wise them up or annoy them, more likely, and that's true. Fergie wanted his players settled down with a routine and things like that, and I think everyone can understand that. It's much easier to sort of like manage, Roy Keane with a wife than it is Lee Sharp with no girlfriend. And Lucky Singh is telling everyone that he's from Birmingham and he wants the championship back. But there are standard provisions that players should do and pay for themselves, in my opinions. Under 18s, fair enough. Over 18s and first team players, sort it out yourself. Snowflake mentality, in my opinion. But no one is disagreeing with this in principle, Big G. It's that the fact is that this is the situation, is that we have players that are not mentally strong enough to cope with pressures that me and you don't really understand. So we've got to look at a way of trying to sort that out, because we can't, we can't sort out the younger generation in one stroke, but maybe we can get Sancho a babysitter and get him to turn up on time.
Yeah, we're not the same. I mean, everything is different. I understand that it's hard to, it's hard to understand. For example, even the younger generations, that are not footballers, they are, more reckless. They are open to, but I think not everyone is the same, and it's hard to judge other people. And I completely understand it. To me, it also seems sometimes a bit soft. But then, we're not, as I said, we're not the same. And, some people are taking some things much more seriously and they are taking it harder. While, for example, I don't take it that hard because I don't feel that, that's a big deal. So it is what it is, right?
All right. Well, Ed Mahan saying Leverkusen are the Man City of Europe. Refs play till they score. Villa are out officially, according to Simon. Yali is saying United should throw everything, including the kitchen sink, to get Alonso. Give him a 350k a week contract. Something mad to get him to Old Trafford if they decide he needs to take a break. Dora Amonde, a Liverpool legend. Would you have him as manager?
No. He needs to stay at Leverkusen for another year. Can't just have one successful season and just leave like that. He's built something there. Let him go and attack the Champions League and see what they've really got. Let's see if the board back him. The only reason I can see him leaving if some of the players, the board have to sell some of his key.
Yeah,
that's the only reason. Otherwise, I think he's going to stay.
They'll lose a couple, I would imagine. But if they keep that, I mean, I always look back at. Do you remember that Monaco team, Dora, that had like Mbappe, Fabinho, David Silva? Like that team could have, like, I mean, they were unreal, and they just got broken up and went to the top clubs in Europe. Like they could have been something special, and I feel that Leverkusen probably will be looking at that Monaco team and thinking, is there any way we could maybe keep the gang together for a year or two?
Yeah, that's a good shout, actually.
All right, now everyone's been waiting for this. Andrew's got an update about the Ukrainian girl in the apartment opposite him. She made it worth my while, baked me a disgusting looking meringue.
Oh, good.
Oh my God.
The background is she said it would make it worth my while if I fixed her Apple Mac. 2 days it took me non-stop, and then I'm not reading the next comment. Sancho came in the season as Ronaldo, great role model, not. Bartholomew will adopt me if you want, Big G. Wondered to himself, how resentful is Bartholomew that Sancho earns £370,000 a week, that he shakes his hand with glee over could Sancho being minded. I don't understand that, and I don't appreciate that kind of attitude. We deserve better, so please, a bit more respect. Actually, we had a babysitter for Sancho, and he still turned up late. Did we really? And anything else here? No, not really, except for Knick-Knack, Paddy Whack, give a dog a bone. Hard to see another Premier League side taking Greenwood.
Forest will take him 100%.
Do you think so?
Yeah, they're in the last few years since they got promoted, they are just taking everyone's scraps. So he will probably go there.
Maybe. All right. Amonde, is there anything else there that excites you, or is it time for us all to brush our teeth?
Yeah, I remember Arthur Daly. He had Terry McCann. He was his minder. And I think.
What are you talking about? Who is Arthur Daly?
Do you remember the program Minder?
No.
Okay. I don't know.
What was it?
Dennis Waterman used to play a guy called Terry McCann, who was a minder of Arthur Daly. He was a bit of a Del Boy sort of character, but he protected him in situations and was with him all the time and got into fights, and
all like Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston.
Yeah, the bodyguard kind of thing.
Bodyguard.
Yeah.
It's a great chat. I mean, first of all, let me just go back, rewind. Dora, your knowledge of Dortmund is brilliant. I was listening to you and thinking, wow, oh my God, you remind me of so many great players they had in the past and the way they sell and they manage their club. And they're my favorite German club as well. I've always liked them. So they've always been kind of successful, or just on the cusp of being really successful. So I really want them to win, and especially for you now, Dora, because you've really sort of shown me that they could, the way they, even though Bartholomew calls them the Brighton of Germany or whatever, they do play a good brand of football. They've got great fans, great stadium, great noise, and the way they've handled those players, got rid of all them players, and then years later they're in the final, Bayern Munich and not. So fair play to them. And yeah, I do think players do need a minder. They should employ people to sort of be there and be around them. And I would volunteer to do a job like that if it was well paid.
Yeah, me too. I will be an awful minder because I will be so strict. They would hate me.
What would your punishments be, Dora?
In the chicken pen. Sleep in the chicken pen.
Literally, but go do your chores. Because the worst thing that these man-childs can do is, clean a house or do chores. They just want to play video games, go out. You know what? Just go, clean a kitchen, clean your room like a baby. Like do something wash your knickers, wash your, clothes or whatever. Just do it, or go pay your bills, pay your own bills. Get rid of agents. Go for one day. Just do all of it. Act like a human being and like a grown-up person and go do everything by yourself. And I think that will be their biggest punishment. They would just say, oh my God, just leave me alone. But, I would be like that.
I've always wanted to make one of them work in the mega store. I've always thought that would be a proper punishment. Is if you're like an hour late for training, you spend a day working in the mega store and see how you get on stacking some shelves.
I mean,
and,
it's not
things like that.
harsh. Yeah, it's not harsh. It's not, how do you say it? It's not, harsh in terms of that. It's endangering them, or it's insulting them or their identities or whatever. It's just being a normal human being. I think that's I think that would be an amazing punishment, in my opinion.
I also like the fact that you sort of like implied that babies do like housework in Croatia, which I quite like that image.
Men, children.
Murder men. Get this lady off the channel. Sorry,
oh, I'm too strict for you, Ed. Huh?
Only joking.
Oh my god.
Like,
I mean,
yeah, cleaning the toilets. I would absolutely love to see that. I'd love to see you, Dora.
Clean my chicken coop. Oh
Yeah.
my god, I would kill for that. Honestly, I just don't want to do it.
I'll tell you something. Yeah, when I was a child, I remember this. Like, it was great because we had discipline. My dad was so scary, and I wouldn't be able to leave my table without eating my greens, and I hated greens, but I had to eat my greens. And he'd be standing over me, waiting for me to finish, and sometimes I'd be in tears. I just couldn't stomach it. But I had to eat my greens, and otherwise the belt was out, But that's discipline, and it's all for good. And it's lost. This new generation is kind of completely lost, I believe. And you can go back in time and say, oh, well, look, all these guys were drinking in the 80s or the 70s, but that was the culture. But they still had team unity and went and played for each other, 16 players or 15 players throughout a whole season, and playing as many games as they play today. So
do you know what I sometimes think about, Armando, is that we talk about social media and the internet and stuff like that, but I think one of the things that might have happened in like modern society is that beforehand, like, people were almost kind of segregated by age. So like, if you were a 17-year-old, you wouldn't be having anything to do with a 31-year-old or something like that. But because of social media, online computer games, stuff like that, those sort of boundaries have all disappeared. And I think that means that people have kind of lost the respect that they used to have for things like experience. And because of that, you don't look at someone and think, oh, I want to be like them, and I wonder how they got there and stuff like that. Nowadays, it's just instant gratification, and people just expect to get to kind of get what they want. And you always hear about Roy Keane, who came in as a sort of right-sided midfield, like a right-sided central midfielder, box to box, not get involved on the ball. And Rob Robson telling him, if you want to be a Man United player, you got to stop running, you got to get on the ball more. And I wonder where all this has gone from football. Like, we always laugh at people like Sean Dyche and Sam Allardyce and stuff like that, but I wouldn't mind a sort of a bit more. I wouldn't mind more football men in football. That one of the big things they expect is discipline, and I think that Ten Hag is halfway there. He just can't communicate with people effectively.
Just really good point you made. Just to add to that about you said about social media is sort of closing the gap between an 18-year-old and a 30-year-old, for example.
Yeah,
that's probably why we're asking for these older senior players to sort of manage the dressing room. They probably can't. I've seen Harry Maguire trying to be a captain and trying to sort of talk to Rashford, and Rashford clearly is visibly saying, and you can lip read, saying "F off," that sort of thing. And I'm not saying it didn't happen in the past, but I think that's one of the issues with Maguire. He was captain, but how can you lead when players don't respect you? And it's not just about Harry Maguire; it's just about anybody. Bruno's captain now. People, it's the same thing applies. I don't think he can say to these guys.
Yeah, do you remember Kobe talking to Bruno, and everyone sort of said like that was great? And I think Sancho might have done something similar to Bruno. Actually, I was always really shocked that Kobe acted that way to Bruno, because Kobe is a child. He's a teenager, isn't it? And like Bruno is the club captain, and in public he just sort of like ignored him and shrugged his shoulders. And I always remember thinking that's just modern football that I don't understand.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
I'd have gone mental if I was his captain and he did that.
Yeah,
like later. All right, we'll just do some comments before we all go home. Right, we've got 17 people watching, which is quite a lot for us. So thank you very much, because we haven't done what we said we were going to do tonight. We'll do that tomorrow. Bartholomew Troublemaker, bring back the outside toilets. If you know, you know. I think everyone knows what an outside toilet is. It's like, the description's there. Sancho would rub that trophy in our faces if they win it, just to embarrass or humiliate. I actually want like Real Madrid to win. I don't, because not only have they been our great allies in Europe for defeating Pep like season after season, I can't bear the idea of Sancho just getting an undeserved win. In my view, like he'd refuse to apologise, and then he just goes off and wins Champions Leagues. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
We got Radchat, who's turned up with Cristiano Ronaldo. Borussia Dortmund are the underdog with that tie. Real have too much for Borussia Dortmund to deal with. Real are an interesting team because I genuinely don't think that they're anywhere near Arsenal or Manchester City in the football they play, but they just grind out and win. It's incredible. Nick Nack, Dice would take the job, but sod Everton. And it's time to sell Rashford. Big G really likes Deitch. I like Deitch as well. Do they not understand what Ten Hag is trying to tell them? You'd have to go very, very far to find a professional footballer that doesn't understand the basics of like Ten Hag's system. Like, I mean, you're going deep into the Amazon to find someone who doesn't understand. Like, this is something that people that know nothing about football say, where the players just don't understand what they're trying to do. The players understand. It's just whether they can do it or not. Defeating Liverpool as well. Yes, Real Madrid, they beat Liverpool. That's a good one. And anything else here? I agree. We've seen Real Madrid comprehensively outplayed so many times, yet they seem to battle their way through. It's absolutely unreal. And I'd love to put it down to Ancelotti, but they've been doing this for like 50 or 60 years. Extraordinary club.
Heritage.
Yeah, football heritage.
Mourinho said, heritage.
Heritage.
I saw an article actually the other day about where all the players ended up and who was playing and who wasn't playing. And I thought we're probably going to have to do that as a show in the off season. So look out for that alongside Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. But anyway, we've done an hour and 20 minutes and we haven't talked about Arsenal once. We'll be on at 8:30 or 9 o'clock tomorrow to talk about Arsenal, maybe. And then we'll give you a reaction show on Sunday. So thank you, Dora. Thank you, Amonde. Amonde, you've got something to say?
Yeah, I just want to say big up to Mr. B. If you're watching, hope you're doing better and hopefully we see you very soon.
I agree with all of that, except for the hopefully you're watching part, because he'll be very cross that we didn't address what we were meant to do tonight. Absolutely ridiculous. Like we talked about Seattle for where Seattle is more than we talked about Arsenal. We did no score predictions, no starting lineup. We'll do all that tomorrow.
But what people don't realise is once we go backstage and the show's over, sometimes we have some of the best topics and best talking points ever. But we don't go live. We've ended live by then. But myself,
you'd be sectioned. You'd be sectioned. If they knew what you spoke about.
Yeah, Omonde is controversial. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. But I'll just say it's very it was stimulating conversation, and I love you guys, Dora and Bath Time.
All right. Well, let's end the show and have one now. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And hopefully you'll come back tomorrow and we might actually do a proper show for you. So good night.